All right, welcome back to Adventures in Numerology, Volume 4. Today we're going to talk about magic versus magic and the number zero. We're going to learn a lot about the number zero and how that applies to numerology, and we're going to learn a lot about the different patterns of these two words here, very similar, of course. Okay, let's go ahead and start off with the Pythagorean numerology. A equals cipher, A equals 1, B equals 2, 3 equals C, so on and so forth. You come back down and start again. So M is going to be 4, A is 1, G is 7, I is 9, C is 3. Let's go over here's the other alternate spelling of the word here. 4, 1, 7, 9, 3, 2, of course. We'll go ahead, we'll circle the numbers once for each time they appear. Okay. Okay. First thing we'll do is we'll look at what they have in common. We'll look at the number circled. We have the 1 here is the personal identity, the personal resources, the ego, the physical body. The 3 is the mind, the sense of action, sense of purpose. The 4 is concrete structures of the physical material world, logic, and order. 7 is your sense of limits, your attachment to the physical material world. It also represents this bridge to the spiritual world, and also the limits of your ability to have limits within the physical world. Okay, and then we have the 9 that they both also share, which is your innate connection to your sense of innate gifts, your innate karma, and divine worth, as far as your connection to the divine love source. Your conscious connection to it. Here, as we look at our words magic and magic, these alternate spelling here that you see sometimes in these spiritual communities and whatnot, we see also here the letter K is a difference here. The 2 is represents the emotional body, the sense of duality, the sense of there being two options to things. It represents access to conscious emotions. Here we see in common, they both had the 147 is the physical material world plane. Here we see that magic is very much a thing that's attached to the physical material world. It's also attached, but it's the physical body and the mental body. Here, however, we see in the alternate spelling of magic here, we're not doing this necessarily like a competition, even it's kind of fun to think about it this way. This is just my preferred spelling of it, and I'll show you why, and kind of get to teach some numerology while we talk about it. So the 2 here is the emotional body, and then now we have the 1, 2, 3 represents the full physical body lines, the full body line. It also represents the tripartite nature of man. That's spirit, soul, body. That's so prominent in a lot of the religions of the world. In astrology, that those 1, 2, 3 is represented by Mercury being the mental, Venus being the emotional, Mars being the physical. There's representations all throughout the world and those type of things there. Here we go ahead and we see it's about time to start talking about what's not circled, and this is where we're going to start talking about the number 0. Okay. Important to notice here is what's not circled is the 6, the 5, and the 8. The 5 is the 5 senses, the sense of the body, the sense of expansion, sense of tolerance. The 6 is a capacity to create intellectual creativity, abstract theories, your capacity to access your imagination in order to create things that you can to use into the world. The 8 is a sense of access to your unconscious mind, the sense of timelessness, sense of transformation. Also, the timelessness there, the detachment from what we would consider linear time. So we see all 3 of these here that they share. They're not circled, right? In numerology of people's names, when you don't have a 0, you typically are kind of like sucked into what's exploring that number, really. For example, if you don't have an 8, you might, in your name at all, you might explore psychology. You might have friends that have that 8. you might have that as kind of one of your interests. Just an example. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the number 0 and explain why you kind of get sucked into these numbers for your name. But this is, we're not talking about names, people's name. We're talking about magic and magic, right? So let's go back to that. In order to do that, we're going to talk a little bit about 0 and see why there's actually stuff going on here. Okay. And 0 doesn't mean nothing like a lot of people believe it does, and I'm going to show you why. Okay. In Chaldean numerology, which is the numerology system that came before Pythagoras numerology and before our 1 to 9 system and whatnot, the numbers went up to 1 to 8. Excuse me. The numbers went up 1 to 8. All right, and then the 9 was only accessible once all the numbers were present. Okay. This is represented by 1 divided by 8 equals 0.125. Okay. When you add that back up, it gets to 100. Okay. And this Pythagorean numerology, 1 divided by 9 equals 0.111, infinite, right? And you add that back up, it does not equal 100%. There's a 0.1% out here, is what this is, what I'm trying to explain here. This 1.1% loss of energy is actually what's going on here. Okay. This is why in people's names we get so drawn to that, and why it has its own thing within just actual regular names here, Magic and Magic, which we'll talk about. If you're thinking 0.1% isn't that big of a deal, you really need to take a look at the composition of the known universe right now, as we're looking at 5% of all observable matter. So that 0.1% is a pretty big deal. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look to see how it applies to 0, and this is how we're going to take a look at how it applies to 0. Okay. It's a little bit more. We know that we put 0 in the top of any number. Let's try that again. 0 divided by 9 is going to equal 0, right? Okay, fair enough. Now let's go ahead and try that again. 9 divided by 0 is, we're told, is undefined. Undefined means we don't understand what this means. I don't understand what that means. Okay? I'm going to help you understand a little bit what that means here. Okay? When we go up to here and we look at this 0.1%, okay? That 0.1% we have, that's floating around right here. Okay? When I take 0 to the 0 power, it equals 1. Okay? That's because that 0.1% right here is actually something that when times by itself is going to give us a 1. Okay? And that's why 0 to the 0th power equals 1, and why in numerology the absence of a circled number is a large prominence. Okay? So anyway, my camera's really out of focus on that there. Let's try to focus that again. Okay, we'll give it a second to behave itself here. Anyway, 0, of course, is known by the circle, and it's a pretty big deal here. In this magic, we see how it's going to show us between the magic versus magic. It's going to show us we're unbound by laws of time. We're unbound by the 5 senses, and we're unbound by imagination. So magic can be whatever you imagine, whatever your 5 senses could be, and 5 senses could experience, and whatever could happen with time, and it's literally transformative. So it's the true essence of unbounding. And we add those numerology definitions using the number 0 to understand why these represent unlimited components to the names here. Okay. Anyway, I know it was a lot, but it was also pretty fun too. So I hope you all learned something today. had fun adventures in numerology today. If you liked the video, please like the video. If you felt like you learned something, please comment about it. I also have some other numerology videos. I have one on Adam, one on Eve, one on Lilith. I have an astrology video, and I have a lot of cat tarot videos to check out. And I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in.